Captain John Mitchell was drinking his morning coffee when the alien message arrived. He had been commanding the USS Horizon for 3 years now, and in all that time, he had never seen anything like the massive ships that appeared on his screens. 3 enormous vessels hung in space just outside human territory, their dark hulls gleaming with strange lights that pulsed like heartbeats. The communication system crackled to life with sounds that made John's teeth ache. Then the translator kicked in, and a voice spoke in perfect English with an accent that sounded like grinding metal. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Zex Tai of the Vraxian Empire. You will prepare to receive our diplomatic party immediately. We come with orders from the Galactic Council." John set down his coffee cup and straightened his uniform. He had been expecting this day for months. The reports from other human ships had been clear. The aliens were getting impatient. For 3 years, humanity had politely refused every invitation to join their galactic government. The Council seemed to think that humans were just being stubborn children who needed a firm hand. "Admiral Zex Tai, this is Captain Mitchell of the USS Horizon. You are welcome to send your diplomatic party aboard. We will receive them in Docking Bay 2. The alien shuttle that docked with his ship was unlike anything John had ever seen. It moved without visible engines, its surface rippling like liquid metal. When the airlock opened, 3 beings stepped through that made John's crew take an involuntary step backward. The Vraxians were tall, nearly 8 feet in height, with skin that looked like polished black stone. Their eyes glowed with an inner fire, and when they moved, they did so with the fluid grace of natural predators. Admiral Zex Tai wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor, covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when John looked directly at them. "Captain Mitchell," the Admiral said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority, "I bring greetings from the Galactic Council and an opportunity for your species to join the civilized galaxy." John gestured toward the conference room. "Please, let's discuss this in private." The meeting lasted exactly 47 minutes. Admiral Zex Tai laid out the Council's terms with the patience of someone explaining basic concepts to a child. Humanity would surrender sovereignty over their colonies. Human military forces would be integrated into Council peacekeeping units. All human technology would be shared freely with Council members. In return, humans would receive protection, trade opportunities, and the wisdom of species that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. John listened without interruption, nodding politely at appropriate moments. When the Admiral finished, he poured himself another cup of coffee and offered some to his guests. The Vraxians declined with expressions that might have been discussed. "Admiral, I appreciate the Council's generous offer. I truly do, but I'm afraid humanity must respectfully decline." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Admiral Zex Tai's glowing eyes flared brighter, and the symbols on his armor began to move more rapidly. "Captain, perhaps you do not understand the situation. This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is an opportunity for your species to join the galactic community peacefully. The alternative is much less pleasant." John took a sip of his coffee and met the alien's burning gaze without flinching. "I understand perfectly, Admiral, and my answer remains the same. Humanity appreciates the Council's interest, but we prefer to manage our own affairs." The Admiral stood, his massive frame casting a shadow across the conference table. "You are making a grave mistake, Captain. The Council has been patient with your species, but patience has limits. We have shown you courtesy by sending diplomats first. That courtesy can be withdrawn." "I understand that as well," John replied calmly. "But our position hasn't changed. We wish to remain independent." The other 2 Vraxians had remained silent throughout the meeting, but now they stepped forward. Their posture suggested they were warriors rather than diplomats, and their hands rested on weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. "Perhaps," Admiral Zextai said slowly, "you need time to consider the consequences of your decision. We will remain in this system for one of your days. When we return, we expect a different answer." John stood as well, though he had to crane his neck to look up at the towering alien. "Admiral, with respect, my answer will be the same tomorrow, as it is today. I suggest you return to the Council with our response." The Vraxians left without another word, their shuttle departing with the same eerie silence with which it had arrived. John watched them go from the observation deck, noting how their ships moved with predatory grace through the void. His communications officer, Lieutenant Kate Brown, approached with a worried expression. "Captain, should we contact command?" John nodded. "Send a priority message to Admiral Clark. Tell him the Council has made their final offer, and we've given our final answer. Also send a coded message to all ships in the sector. Use authentication code 77 Alpha." Kate's eyes widened. Authentication code 77 Alpha was something every human ship captain knew but hoped never to use. It meant that first contact protocols were no longer in effect, and that humanity was moving to the next phase of their relationship with the galaxy. 20 minutes later, John received a response from Admiral Clark. The message was brief, but clear. "Understood. All assets moving to position." "Good luck, John." The 3 Vraxian ships maintained their position at the edge of human space, their weapons powered but not yet aimed. John knew they were waiting for him to reconsider, to come crawling back with apologies and acceptance of their terms. Instead, he activated the ship's internal communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We have reached a turning point in humanity's relationship with the galactic community. The aliens have made their position clear, and we have made ours. I want everyone to remember that we are not just representing ourselves today, but all of humanity. Stay alert, stay professional, and remember your training." As the hours passed, more alien ships began to arrive. The Vraxians had called for reinforcements, and species from across the galaxy answered the call. Soon, more than 50 vessels surrounded the small human exploration ship, their combined firepower enough to reduce a planet to dust. John sat in his command chair, watching the tactical display with calm eyes. His crew moved with quiet efficiency, each person focused on their duties. They all knew what was coming, and they were ready. When Admiral Zixtai's final communication arrived, John was not surprised by its contents. The deadline had passed, and humanity's answer remained unchanged. The Council had decided that humans were too dangerous to be allowed their independence and too primitive to be reasoned with. "Captain Mitchell," the Admiral's voice carried a note of what might have been regret, "you have forced our hand. By order of the Galactic Council, human space is now under our protection. Surrender your ship and prepare to be escorted to the nearest Council facility." John looked around his bridge at the men and women who had served with him for 3 years. They looked back at him with steady eyes, waiting for his decision. He thought about his wife back on Earth, about the children, playing in parks on Mars, about the dreams of a species that had only just learned to walk among the stars. "Admiral Zextai," he said finally, his voice carrying across the void to the assembled alien fleet. "Go home. This is your only warning." The Admiral's laughter was like the sound of breaking glass. "Captain, you command one small ship. We have brought 50 vessels with the combined might of a dozen species. What possible threat could you pose?" John smiled, though the aliens couldn't see it. "You're about to find out." He cut the transmission and turned to his communications officer. "Lieutenant Brown, send the message." Kate's fingers flew over her controls, sending a single coded burst transmission toward the inner system. The message was brief, just 6 words that would change everything. "The guests have overstayed their welcome. Throughout human space, from the orbital stations around Earth to the mining colonies in the asteroid belt, the same message was received and understood. 3 years of careful preparation were about to be put to the test, and the galaxy was about to learn why no one should ever corner a human. Dr. Lisa Parker had been working late in the underground facility when the red lights began flashing. The research complex beneath the surface of Mars had been her home for 5 years, but she had never seen the emergency protocols activated. The corridor lights switched to crimson, and the gentle hum of the air recycling system was drowned out by the urgent wail of alarm sirens. She clutched her tablet, containing the final test results from Project Lazarus, as personnel ran past her. In the hallway, scientists, technicians, and military officers moved with the practiced efficiency of people who had drilled for this moment countless times. Lisa's hands trembled as she read the data one more time, even though she had memorized every detail. Weeks ago, the elevator ride to the command center felt like it took forever. When the doors opened, she stepped into a room filled with screens showing star charts, tactical displays, and communication feeds from across the solar system. General Robert Hayes stood at the center of it all, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of dozens of monitors. "Dr. Parker," he said without turning around, "I trust you have good news for me." Lisa walked to his side, noting how every person in the room seemed to be holding their breath. "All testing phases are complete, General. The subjects are stable and ready for deployment. We've eliminated the cellular rejection issues from the previous trials." The screens around them showed the alien fleet that had appeared at the edge of human space. 51 vessels from 12 different species, all armed with weapons that could reduce cities to ash. The tactical analysis scrolled past in green text, calculating engagement ranges and probable outcomes. None of the projections looked good. "For humanity, how many are ready?" the general asked. 347 fully enhanced subjects across all facilities. Another 123 in the final stages of the process. Lisa paused, looking at the alien ships on the screens. "General, are you sure about this? Once we activate them, there's no going back." General Hayes finally turned to look at her. His eyes were tired, but there was steel in them that reminded Lisa why he had been chosen to lead this project. "Doctor, 3 years ago, we made first contact with a galaxy that sees us as children. They've been patient with our refusal to join their council, but patience has limits. Today, those limits were reached." The Project Lazarus facility had been built in secret, funded by resources diverted from a dozen different military budgets. The official records listed it as a research station studying Martian geology. In reality, it was humanity's most classified project, born from a discovery that had changed everything. 5 years earlier, a mining expedition in the asteroid belt had uncovered something that shouldn't have existed. Buried deep in a chunk of rock that had been drifting through space for millions of years, they found the remains of a battlefield. The technology was unlike anything humans had ever seen, clearly the product of a civilization far more advanced than any currently known. In the galaxy, most of the artifacts had been too damaged to study, but among the wreckage, they found something intact. It wasn't a weapon or a tool, but something far more valuable. A complete genetic modification laboratory. The alien race that had built it had been working on ways to enhance their own biology, to make themselves stronger, faster, and more capable of surviving in the harsh environment of space. The technology was beyond human understanding in many ways, but Dr. Parker and her team had spent 5 years learning to use it. They had started with simple modifications, healing damaged tissue and replacing missing limbs. But as they learned more about the alien technology, they realized it could do much more. "The volunteers," Lisa said quietly. They knew what they were signing up for. Every single one of them, the general confirmed. Military personnel who had been injured in the line of duty. Men and women who had lost limbs, suffered brain damage, or been paralyzed in accidents. We offered them a choice: live with their disabilities, or become something more. The first successful test subject had been Sergeant Kevin Torres, a Marine who had lost both legs in a training accident. The alien technology had not only regrown his limbs, but had enhanced his entire body. His bones became stronger than steel. His muscles could generate 10 times normal human force. And his nervous system had been rewired to process information at incredible speeds. But the most remarkable change was in his mind. The enhancement didn't just make him stronger and faster. It made him smarter. His reaction time decreased to levels that seemed impossible, and his ability to process complex information improved dramatically. He could calculate trajectories, analyze threats, and make tactical decisions faster than any computer. "General," a technician called out from across the room, "we're receiving reports from the outer system. The aliens have moved past the diplomatic phase. They're demanding surrender." General Hayes nodded grimly. "Then it's time. Dr. Parker, give the order." Lisa activated her tablet and entered the authorization code she had memorized months ago. Across the solar system, in hidden facilities on the moon, on asteroid mining stations, and in underground bunkers on Earth, the same signal was received. In the medical bay 3 levels below, Sergeant Torres opened his eyes. The enhancement process had changed his appearance slightly. His eyes now had flecks of silver that seemed to glow in dim light, and his skin had a faint metallic sheen. But the most noticeable change was in how he moved. Every gesture was perfectly controlled, every step precise and silent. "Sergeant," Dr. Parker's voice came through the communication system, "you're needed." Torres sat up on the medical bed, his enhanced muscles responding instantly to his commands. The 3 months of recovery and adjustment were over. It was time to find out if the enhancements would work in real combat situations. Around the solar system, similar scenes were playing. Out, enhanced humans were waking up in facilities that had been hidden from the galaxy's prying eyes. Each one had volunteered for the program, knowing the risks and understanding what they might become. Lieutenant Amy Foster had been a pilot before the enhancement process. Now, as she stood in the asteroid belt facility, she felt the familiar weight of her new body. The alien technology had made her stronger and faster, but it had also made her more aware of everything around her. She could hear the heartbeats of the technicians in the next room, feel the vibrations of the station's engines through the floor, and process tactical information with crystal clarity. "All subjects report ready for deployment," came the announcement. Through the facility's communication system, Operation Lazarus is now active. Foster looked out through the viewport at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was preparing to invade human space. They expected to find a young species that could be easily conquered, a civilization that would surrender rather than fight a superior force. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The enhancement process had not been without its risks. 7 volunteers had died during the early trials, their bodies unable to handle the radical changes. Another 12 had suffered psychological breaks, their minds overwhelmed by the sudden increase in processing power. But the survivors had become something unprecedented in the galaxy. Humans who had been enhanced beyond the capabilities of any known species. "Doctor," General Hayes said, watching as status reports came in from facilities across the solar system. "How long before they're in position?" "The subjects in the outer system are already at their assigned stations. Earth-based units will need another 6 hours to reach deployment positions." Lisa paused, looking at the tactical display. "General, the aliens don't know what they're facing. This won't be a fair fight." The general's expression was grim. "Doctor, they came to our space with weapons. They demanded our surrender. They made the choice to use force instead of diplomacy. What happens next is their responsibility, not ours. On. The screens around them, the alien fleet continued its advance into human space. Their ships moved with the confidence of predators who had never met effective resistance. The various species that made up the Council had been conquering younger civilizations for thousands of years, and they had no reason to think humanity would be different. The enhanced humans scattered throughout the solar system prepared for contact. Each one carried equipment that had been specially designed for their new capabilities. Their weapons were built to take advantage of their enhanced strength and speed. Their armor was designed to protect bodies that were already far more durable than baseline humans. But their most important weapon was something the aliens couldn't see or detect: the knowledge that they were fighting to protect their families, their homes, and their species' right to exist as free beings. All units report ready. Came the final confirmation from the communication center. General Hayes looked at Dr. Parker one last time. Any regrets, Doctor? Lisa thought about the volunteers who had trusted her with their lives, about the alien technology that had made this possible, and about the choice humanity now faced. None, General. We gave them every chance to leave us alone. The General nodded and turned to the tactical display. And let's show them what happens when you corner a human. The trap was set, and the aliens were walking right into it. Commander Steve Taylor stood in the observation deck of the mining station orbiting Jupiter's fourth moon, watching the alien ships approach through the viewport. His enhanced eyes could see details that would have been invisible to normal humans, tracking the subtle movements of the vessels as they maneuvered into boarding positions. The Vraxian assault ships moved with predatory grace, their hulls reflecting the pale light of the distant sun. Steve had been enhanced for 3 years, but he still felt strange in his new body. His bones were stronger than titanium. His muscles could generate forces that would crush normal human bones, and his mind processed information 15 times faster than a baseline human. The silver flecks in his eyes weren't just cosmetic. They were part of the enhancement that allowed him to see across multiple spectrums of light. The mining station housed 237 civilian workers and their families. Most of them had been evacuated to the inner compartments when the alien fleet arrived, but Steve and his 11 enhanced teammates had remained at their posts. They were the station's only defense against what was coming. Incoming transmission, announced Lieutenant Paul Carter, the station's enhanced communications officer. His voice was calm, but Steve could hear the underlying tension. Even with their enhancements, they were about to face an enemy that had been conquering star systems for thousands of years. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead Vraxian vessel. Admiral Zextai stood in the center of the screen, his black stone-like skin gleaming under the harsh lights of his command center. Behind him, Steve could see dozens of Vraxian warriors preparing for the boarding action. Mining station. This is Admiral Zextai. By order of the Galactic Council, this facility is now under our protection. Prepare to receive our boarding party and submit to Council authority. Steve stepped forward, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to move with fluid precision. Admiral, this is Commander Taylor. This station is in human space, and we do not recognize Council authority here. I'm ordering you to withdraw immediately. The Admiral's glowing eyes flared with what might have been amusement. Commander, you have 12 people on that station. I have brought 60 trained warriors. This is not a negotiation. You're right, Steve replied. It's not. The transmission ended, and Steve turned to his team. Each of them wore the same expression of calm, determination. They had trained for this moment for 3 years, running simulations and practicing with equipment designed specifically for their enhanced capabilities. Sergeant Janet Cole checked her weapon, a rifle that had been built to take advantage of her enhanced strength and reflexes. The standard human military couldn't have used it effectively, but in her hands, it was capable of firing projectiles at velocities that could penetrate the heaviest armor. Positions, Steve ordered. The enhanced. Humans scattered throughout the station with movements that would have been impossible for normal people. They could leap between levels using handholds that were 30 feet apart, their enhanced strength allowing them to climb surfaces that would have been impossible for baseline humans. The alien boarding craft attached to the stations, docking. Ports with metallic thuds that echoed through the corridors. Steve watched through the security cameras as the Vraxian warriors emerged from their vessels. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never met effective resistance. The Vraxians were impressive by any standard. Each warrior stood. Nearly 8 feet tall, their natural armor thicker than most military protective gear. Their weapons could melt through starship hulls, and their training had been perfected over centuries of conquest. They had never encountered a species that could match them in individual combat. The first group of aliens entered the main corridor, their energy weapons sweeping the area for threats. Their sensors detected the life signs of the enhanced humans, but dismissed them as normal station personnel. The readings showed baseline human signatures, nothing that could pose a threat to trained Vraxian warriors. Steve waited until the entire boarding party was inside the station before giving the signal. The enhanced humans moved simultaneously, their quantum communication devices allowing them to coordinate their actions with perfect timing. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The first Vraxian warrior to encounter. Steve fired his plasma weapon at point-blank range. The energy bolt, which could have melted through 6 inches of steel, struck Steve in the chest and dissipated harmlessly against his enhanced skin. The alien had barely enough time to process this impossible sight before Steve's hand closed around his weapon, crushing it into useless metal. Sergeant Cole moved through the ventilation system like a ghost, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to navigate the narrow passages at speeds that would have been fatal to normal humans. She emerged behind a group of 5 Vraxian warriors, her weapon firing projectiles that penetrated their armor as if it were made of paper. Carter had positioned himself in the station's central hub, where his enhanced senses could track the movements of every alien on the station. He coordinated the defense through the quantum communication system, directing his teammates with precision that would have been impossible for normal humans. The Vraxian warriors found themselves facing an enemy that moved too fast to track and hit too hard to stop. Their plasma weapons, which had never failed to kill any known species, were ineffective against the enhanced humans' modified biology. Their armor, designed to protect against conventional weapons, crumpled under the enhanced human strength. It was the speed that truly horrified the aliens. The enhanced humans moved with reflexes that made them appear to teleport from one position to another. They could dodge energy blasts that traveled at the speed of light, their enhanced nervous systems processing information and reacting faster than the aliens thought possible. Meanwhile, on the research station orbiting Neptune, Captain Karen Wright was facing a much larger boarding party. 60 Vraxian warriors had entered her facility, expecting to find terrified scientists hiding in the corridors. Instead, they found 8 enhanced humans who had been waiting for them. Karen's team moved with coordination that seemed almost supernatural. Their quantum communication devices allowed them to share thoughts and reactions instantaneously, creating a group mind that could anticipate and counter every alien move. They flowed through the station like water, striking where the aliens were weakest and disappearing before effective counterattacks could be mounted. The enhanced humans didn't just fight the aliens. They hunted them. Their enhanced senses allowed them to track the Vraxians through the station's corridors, while their superior speed and strength made each encounter a foregone conclusion. The aliens' energy shields, plasma weapons, and power armor were useless against opponents. who could move faster than their targeting systems could track. The few Vraxian warriors who managed to escape the mining station and return to their ships brought reports that their commanders initially dismissed as impossible. Humans moving faster than sensors could track, surviving direct hits from weapons that could melt starship hulls, and demonstrating strength that could crush power armor with bare hands. Admiral Zextai received the reports with growing disbelief. His boarding parties had been wiped out in minutes by what should have been helpless civilians. The survivors spoke of humans who moved like demons, who shrugged off energy blasts that would vaporize normal organic matter, and who seemed to anticipate every tactical move. Impossible, the Admiral muttered, reviewing the battle recordings. No species in the galaxy possesses such capabilities. But the evidence was undeniable. The enhanced humans had not just defeated the Vraxian warriors. They had done so with casualties that approached zero. Only one enhanced human had been injured in the entire engagement, and that was a minor plasma burn that healed completely within hours. The alien fleet that had approached human space with such confidence began to show signs of uncertainty. Commanders who had been eager to claim their share of human territory now found themselves questioning whether they had underestimated their opponents. Emergency communications flashed between the council ships as reports came in from other engagement sites. The pattern was the same everywhere. Alien boarding parties entering human facilities and disappearing, sometimes without managing to send a single transmission back to their ships. Steve stood in the mining station's command center, looking out at the alien fleet through the viewport. The Vraxian ships maintained their positions, but their weapons were no longer powered for immediate attack. The aliens were beginning to realize that they were facing something unprecedented. "Commander," Lieutenant Carter said from his communications. "Console, we're receiving a priority transmission from General Hayes." Steve nodded, knowing what the message would contain. The aliens had been given their chance to withdraw peacefully. They had chosen to use force instead of diplomacy, and now they were learning the consequences of that decision. The enhanced humans throughout the solar system prepared for the next phase of the engagement. The aliens had seen what they were, capable of in defensive situations, but they hadn't yet experienced the full extent of human enhancement technology. That was about to change. The mining station's docking bay opened, and something emerged that made the alien commanders question everything they thought they knew about space combat. Enhanced humans in form-fitting suits launched themselves into the vacuum of space, moving between the alien ships with a grace that defied the laws of physics. Admiral Zextai watched in horror as these impossible beings approached his flagship. Their suits appeared inadequate for space survival, yet they moved through the void as if they were swimming through water. Their enhanced biology required minimal life support, and their reflexes allowed them to navigate through defensive fire that would have destroyed any known fighter craft. "All ships," the Admiral commanded, his voice carrying a note of desperation. "Open fire on those whatever they are." The combined firepower of the alien fleet lit up the space around Jupiter's moon like a miniature star. Energy beams and plasma. Bolts filled the void, creating a defensive grid that should have been impossible to penetrate. The enhanced humans moved through it like ghosts, their speed and reflexes allowing them to dodge between the energy blasts with impossible precision. They reached the alien ships and began to do something that would haunt the dreams of every survivor. They started tearing the vessels apart from the outside. Their enhanced strength allowed them to rip through hull plating that was designed to withstand meteor impacts. They found access ports and forced their way inside, bringing the battle to the very heart of the alien fleet. The Galactic Council's forces had made their first and last mistake. They had underestimated humanity's creativity, determination, and willingness to become something more than human to protect their freedom. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson that would echo through the stars for generations to come. Dr. Andrew Martinez stood in the observation deck of the hidden research facility, watching the tactical displays with a mixture of pride and horror. The reports coming in from across human space showed that the enhanced humans were performing beyond even his most optimistic projections. But he knew that the real test was yet to come. The alien reinforcements had arrived in overwhelming numbers. What had started as a 50-ship diplomatic mission had grown into a full-scale invasion force. The Vraxians had called for support from their council allies, and the galaxy had responded. Over 200 warships from a dozen different species now surrounded human space, their combined firepower capable of reducing entire worlds to ash. "Doctor," General Hayes said, joining him at the observation window, "the Council has committed. Their reserve fleets. They're bringing everything they have." Martinez nodded grimly. He had spent 8 years developing the enhancement technology, working with alien artifacts that humanity barely understood. The process had cost them 7 volunteers in the early trials, and another 12 had suffered psychological breaks. But the survivors had become something unprecedented in the galaxy, humans who had transcended their biological limitations. "How many enhanced subjects do we have in the field?" the general asked. 347 fully operational. Another 123 are completing their final adjustments. Martinez paused, looking at the tactical display. "General, they're bringing species we've never encountered before. The Catherian hive mind, the Zephyrian war clans, even the Ethereal collective. This isn't just a council operation anymore." The screens around them showed the alien fleet in all its terrible glory. Massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets, hung alongside sleek cruisers designed for precision strikes. Carrier vessels launched swarms of fighters that moved in perfect formation, their pilots linked by telepathic bonds that allowed them to act as a single entity. Commander Amy Foster received the deployment orders while floating in the asteroid. Belt Facilities Preparation Chamber. Her enhanced body no longer required traditional life support systems. The alien technology had modified her biology to function in the vacuum of space for extended periods. She could feel the quantum communication device in her skull connecting her to the other enhanced humans scattered throughout the solar system. "All units," came the coordinated message from General Hayes. "The aliens have committed their full strength. They believe that overwhelming numbers will give them victory. Show them why that's a mistake." Foster launched herself from the asteroid facility wearing nothing but a form-fitting suit that would have been useless for normal humans. Her enhanced physiology required minimal protection from the vacuum, and her reflexes allowed her to navigate through space with precision that defied conventional physics. Around her, 49 other enhanced humans emerged from hidden installations throughout the asteroid belt. They moved between the tumbling rocks with fluid grace, their enhanced senses allowing them to track the approaching alien fleet across millions of miles of space. The alien commanders watched these impossible beings with growing alarm. There, sensors showed human life signs moving through the void without conventional spacecraft, traveling at speeds that should have been fatal to organic matter. The enhanced humans rode the solar wind like surfers, using gravitational fields to accelerate and change direction in ways that violated every known law of space combat. Admiral Zextai stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching enhanced humans. His tactical officers were running continuous scans, trying to understand how these beings could survive in space without proper life support. "Admiral," his science officer reported, "their biology appears to have been artificially modified. Our sensors detect cellular structures that don't exist in any known species." "Impossible," Zextai muttered. "No species in the galaxy possesses such technology." But the evidence was undeniable. The enhanced humans were approaching his fleet. with movements that seemed to mock the laws of physics. They accelerated without visible propulsion, changed direction without reaction mass, and showed no signs of being affected by the radiation that filled the space between planets. The first wave of enhanced humans reached the alien fleet's outer perimeter, where they encountered the Cytherian hive mind scout vessels. The Cytherians were a species that had merged their consciousness into a collective intelligence, allowing them to react to threats with perfect coordination. Their ships moved as extensions of their shared will, responding to attacks before they were even launched. It didn't matter. The enhanced humans moved through the Cytherian formation like ghosts, their quantum communication devices allowing them to coordinate their actions with precision that matched the aliens' collective consciousness. But where the Cytherians were limited by the speed of thought, the enhanced humans operated at the speed of enhanced reflexes. Commander Foster reached the first Cytherian vessel and began to do something that would be remembered in alien nightmares for generations. She landed on the ship's hull and started tearing it apart with her bare hands. Her enhanced strength allowed her to rip through armor plating that was designed to withstand antimatter explosions. The Cytherian crew inside the vessel felt their collective consciousness recoil in horror as the enhanced human forced her way through their defenses. Their weapons were useless against an opponent who moved faster than their targeting systems could track, and their armor was meaningless against someone who could crush it like paper. But it was what happened next that truly terrified the aliens. Foster didn't just destroy the ship. She interfaced with its computer systems directly, using her enhanced neural implants to hack into the vessel's controls. The alien technology that had created the enhanced humans included quantum processors that could adapt to any digital system. Within minutes, she had turned the Cytherian ship's own weapons against the rest of the fleet. The vessel's plasma cannons swiveled to target its former allies, firing with precision that exceeded the original crew's capabilities. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield as enhanced humans boarded alien vessels and turned them into weapons against their own fleets. The Zephyrian war clans found their proud warships being used to attack their sister vessels. The ethereal collective watched in horror as their mystical technology was perverted to serve human purposes. Captain Peter Collins had been assigned to the most important target, Admiral Zextai's flagship. The massive vessel was protected by energy shields that could deflect the firepower of an entire fleet, and its hull was armored with materials that had never been penetrated by any known weapon. Collins approached the dreadnought with movements that seemed to bend the laws of physics. His enhanced body generated its own magnetic field, allowing him to cling to the ship's hull despite the vessel's defensive systems. His quantum processors began analyzing the ship's shield frequencies, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. Admiral watched through his ship's external cameras as the enhanced human landed on his vessel's hull. The being moved with fluid grace, its form-fitting suit reflecting the light of distant stars. When it looked up at the camera, Zextai saw eyes that glowed with silver light and a face that showed no fear. "Impossible," the Admiral whispered. But his words were cut off as the enhanced human began to tear through his ship's outer hull. Collins moved across the dreadnought's surface with purpose, his enhanced senses guiding him to the vessel's critical systems. The alien shields that protected the ship from external attack were useless against an opponent who was already inside. The defensive perimeter. He found an access port and forced his way into the ship's interior, bringing the battle to the very heart of the alien command structure. The Vraxian warriors, who tried to stop him, found themselves facing an enemy that moved too fast to see and hit too hard to survive. Collins flowed through the ship's corridors like liquid death, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge energy blasts while simultaneously returning fire with weapons that had been designed specifically for his capabilities. But it wasn't the physical battle that truly mattered. As Collins fought his way toward the bridge, his quantum processors were interfacing with the ship's computer systems, learning the layout and identifying the most efficient path to his objective. The alien technology that had created the enhanced. Humans included adaptive algorithms that could understand and manipulate any digital system. The bridge of Admiral HFY's flagship was protected by blast doors that could withstand direct hits from antimatter weapons. Collins studied the barrier for exactly 3 seconds before his enhanced mind calculated the precise frequency needed to disrupt the door's molecular structure. He placed his hand against the metal surface, and the massive barrier simply dissolved. Admiral HFY stood in the center of his ruined bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his command crew. The enhanced human had moved through his elite guards like they were children, leaving destruction in his wake. But it was the being's eyes that truly terrified the Admiral. They showed no hatred, no anger, just the cold calculation of a predator that had cornered its prey. "You came to our space uninvited," Collins said, his voice carrying clearly through the ship's communication system to every vessel in the alien fleet. "You threatened our families. You brought weapons to our home." The Admiral tried to speak, but his voice failed him. Around the bridge, the few surviving crew members cowered behind their consoles, afraid to move or make any sound that might attract the enhanced human's attention. "Now you know what we are capable of," Collins continued, his words being broadcast across all alien frequencies. "Leave now, spread the word, and never come back. This is the only warning you will receive." The enhanced human's quantum processors had interfaced with the flagship's communication array, giving him access to the fleet's entire command network. Every alien captain, every crew member, every warrior in the 200-ship armada could hear his words. "You have 1 hour to withdraw from human space," Collins announced. "Any vessel remaining after that time will be destroyed." Admiral HFY finally found his voice. "You ... You cannot defeat us all. We have 200 ships, thousands of warriors. Your people are primitive, barely capable of interstellar travel." Collins smiled, though the expression held no warmth. "Admiral, you're looking at the future of human evolution. We found the remains of a species that was far more advanced than yours, and we learned from them. Your council has been conquering primitive worlds for so long that you've forgotten what it means to face a truly dangerous enemy." Throughout the alien fleet, similar confrontations were taking place. Enhanced humans had boarded dozens of vessels, turning the invaders' own weapons against them. The carefully coordinated alien formation was dissolving into chaos as ships found themselves firing on their own allies. The ethereal collective's flagship, a vessel that existed partially in another dimension, found itself pulled back into normal space by forces that shouldn't have been possible. The enhanced humans had learned to manipulate the quantum fields that the ethereals used for their mystical technology, turning their greatest strength into a weakness. The Zephyrian War clans, proud warriors who had never retreated from any battle, watched in horror as their ceremonial worships were systematically dismantled by opponents who moved too fast to target. Their ancient battle traditions, perfected over thousands of years, were useless against enemies who could anticipate their moves and counter them before they were even made. But it was the psychological impact that truly broke the alien fleet's will to fight. The enhanced humans didn't just defeat their enemies. They demonstrated capabilities that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about the limits of organic life. They moved through space without protection, survived weapons that could destroy planets, and interfaced with technology as if they were living computers. The alien commanders began to receive reports that their crews were requesting permission to abandon ship. Warriors who had never shown fear in battle were now speaking in whispers about the enhanced ones and their impossible abilities. The humans had become something beyond the galaxy's experience, and fear was spreading through the invasion fleet. Like a plague, Admiral Zextai looked around his ruined bridge one final time. Half his crew was dead, his ship's systems were under human control, and the enhanced being who had done this was still standing in front of him, waiting for his response. We will withdraw, the Admiral said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Collins nodded. You have 53 minutes remaining. I suggest you use them wisely. The retreat began immediately. Ship after ship disengaged from the human. Defensive perimeter, their crews eager to put distance between themselves and the enhanced humans. The proud armada that had arrived with such confidence now fled in disorder, leaving behind dozens of wrecked vessels and thousands of casualties. But the message had been sent. The enhanced humans had demonstrated capabilities that would be remembered throughout the galaxy for generations to come. Humanity had revealed itself to be something unprecedented, a species that could transcend its biological limitations and become something that even the most advanced civilizations feared. Dr. Martinez watched the alien retreat from his observation deck, feeling a mixture of relief and sadness. The enhanced humans had succeeded beyond all expectations, but the cost was enormous. Humanity had saved itself, but in doing so, it had become something that would never be welcomed in the galactic community. Doctor, General Hayes said, joining him at the window. The last alien ship has left the solar system. We've won. Martinez nodded, but his expression remained troubled. General, we've proven that we can defend ourselves. But we've also proven that we're too dangerous to be left alone. The galaxy will never trust us again. The general was quiet for a long moment. It will have to be strong enough to protect ourselves. The enhanced humans have shown us what we can become. Now we need to decide what we want to be. The battle was over, but the real challenge was just beginning. Humanity had gained the power to defend itself, but it had also gained a reputation that would follow it throughout the galaxy. The enhanced humans had won their freedom, but they had also ensured that they would face that freedom alone. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity, and fear was a lesson that would not be easily forgotten. 6 months after the failed invasion, Ambassador Claire Johnson stood in the diplomatic chamber of the space station orbiting Earth, preparing for a meeting that would define humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. The chamber was empty, except for the holographic projectors that would display the representatives of the Galactic Council. Not a single alien had agreed to meet with humanity in person, since the reports of the enhanced humans had spread throughout the galaxy. Claire had been chosen for this role because of her diplomatic experience and her ability to remain calm under pressure. She had spent 20 years negotiating trade agreements and cultural exchanges between human colonies, but nothing had prepared her for the fear she saw in the aliens' eyes when they looked at her species. The holographic projectors activated, filling the chamber with the images of 12 different species. Each representative appeared to be broadcasting from the safety of their own homeworld, thousands of light years away from human space. The once proud council chambers that had housed hundreds of species now felt empty despite the technological illusion of presence. Ambassador Johnson spoke Chancellor Thexara of the Centauri Republic, her voice carrying across the vast distances to quantum communication. The Council has reviewed the reports from the recent ... incident. We wish to establish new protocols for our relationship with humanity. Claire nodded politely, though she could see the tension in the alien leader's posture. The Centauri had been among the first species to make contact with humanity, and their initial reports had described humans as primitive but potentially useful. That assessment had changed dramatically after the enhanced humans had demonstrated their capabilities. The Council is prepared to recognize human sovereignty over your current territories, continued the Chancellor. We ask only that humanity respect existing trade routes and maintain peaceful relations with neighboring species. The other representatives nodded in agreement. their images flickering slightly as the holographic transmission adjusted to their movements. Claire could see the fear in their eyes, the way they avoided looking directly at her, even through the safety of the holographic link. "We appreciate the Council's recognition," Claire replied carefully. "Humanity has always sought peaceful coexistence with all species. We have no territorial ambitions beyond our current borders, and we respect the sovereignty of other civilizations." What she didn't say was that humanity no longer needed to expand. The enhanced humans had demonstrated capabilities that made traditional concepts of military conquest obsolete. A single enhanced human could infiltrate and disable an entire star system's defenses, making conventional warfare meaningless. The meeting continued for 2 hours, with the Council representatives carefully outlining the new boundaries of human space and the protocols for future contact. Every species had the same message. They wanted nothing to do with humanity beyond the absolute minimum required for galactic stability. The tourism industry had been the first to feel the impact. Vacation. Destinations that had once advertised proximity to exotic human worlds suddenly found new selling points. The famous orbital casinos around human space had seen their alien clientele disappear overnight, replaced by automated systems that could handle transactions without requiring personal contact. Trade had shifted to purely automated exchanges. Cargo ships would meet at predetermined coordinates, transfer goods through robotic systems, and depart without any direct communication between crews. The alien merchants, who had once been eager to establish personal relationships with human traders, now treated them like dangerous wild animals that needed to be handled from a safe distance. Dr. Martinez published his final report on Project Lazarus 3 months after the council meeting, though most of it remained classified. The public learned that humanity had developed a method to enhance human biological capabilities, but the full extent of the modifications remained secret. The galaxy didn't need to know that only a few hundred humans had been enhanced, or that the process was still experimental. The truth was less important than the perception. Stories spread throughout the galaxy of humans who could survive in the vacuum of space, who could tear apart starships with their bare hands, and who could interface with any technology through direct neural connection. Most of the stories were exaggerated, but enough were true to make the rest believable. Captain John Mitchell, now promoted to admiral, established humanity's new foreign policy from his office in the lunar orbital station. The walls of his office were decorated with star charts that showed the new boundaries of human space, marked not by military installations, but by the invisible barrier of fear that surrounded humanity. Admiral, his aide, Lieutenant Daniel Brooks, reported during their weekly briefing. "We've received another request from the Andromedan Trade Consortium. They want to establish a permanent embassy in human space." Mitchell looked up from his reports. "What's their offer?" "Full access to their technological databases, unlimited trade privileges, and a mutual defense pact. They're offering everything short of complete submission." The Admiral shook his head. "Same answer as always. We appreciate their interest, but we prefer to handle our own affairs." It was the same response humanity had given to dozens of similar offers. The enhanced humans had made humanity too valuable as allies and too dangerous as enemies, but they had also made genuine friendship impossible. Other species saw humans as useful tools or terrifying threats, never as equals. The psychological impact on the galaxy had been profound. Species that had conquered hundreds of worlds now spoke in hushed tones about the death worlds that had spawned humanity. The enhanced humans had become legendary figures, spoken of in the same breath as ancient gods and mythical monsters. The most aggressive military species in the galaxy had quietly developed new policies regarding human space. The Vraxian Empire had issued standing orders that any ship detecting human signatures should immediately change course and report the contact to headquarters. The Zephyrian war clans had declared human space to be cursed ground, that no honorable warrior should enter. But it was the effect on human society that truly concerned the leadership. The enhanced humans had become celebrities and pariahs at the same time. They were celebrated for saving humanity, but also feared for what they represented. Children would stare at them in the streets. Adults would whisper when they passed. And even other military personnel treated them with nervous respect. Commander Steve Taylor walked through the corridors of the Mars facility, noting how conversations stopped when he approached. His enhanced senses could detect the elevated heart rates and stress hormones of the people around him, even though they tried to act normally. He had become something beyond human, and the distance between him and his former species was growing every day. "Commander," Dr. Parker approached him in the facility's common area, "how are you adjusting to civilian life?" Steve considered the question carefully. The enhanced humans had been given the choice to remain in military service or return to civilian careers. But either option came with challenges. "It's difficult, Doctor. People look at me and see the news reports about what we did to the alien fleet. They don't see the person I used to be." The enhanced humans had sacrificed more than just their original biology. They had given up their place in normal human society, becoming living weapons that could never fully return to the world they had saved. They were too powerful for civilian life, but too valuable to waste on mundane military duties. The solution had been to establish special facilities where the enhanced humans could live and work alongside people who understood their capabilities. These communities became research centers, training facilities, and cultural institutions that pushed the boundaries of what humanity could achieve. But even within these communities, the enhanced humans struggled with their new reality. They could communicate with each other through quantum links, process information at superhuman speeds, and interact with technology in ways that seemed like magic. They had become something beyond human experience, and the loneliness of that transformation was something that couldn't be enhanced away. Admiral Mitchell stood on the observation deck of his station, looking out at the stars that had once seemed so welcoming. The galaxy was still out there, full of wonders and opportunities, but humanity would explore it alone. The enhanced humans had given their species the ultimate gift, the freedom to choose their own destiny. "Sir," Lieutenant Brooks joined him at the observation window. "The latest reports show that alien traffic through our sector has decreased by 97%. The shipping lanes are being rerouted around our territory." Mitchell nodded. "Good. That's exactly what we wanted." The lieutenant looked puzzled. "Sir, doesn't that mean we're becoming isolated?" The admiral smiled, remembering the words of an ancient Earth poet. "Good fences make good neighbors, Lieutenant. The galaxy has learned to respect our boundaries, and we've learned to be content within them." The enhanced humans had achieved what diplomacy could not. They had earned humanity's right to exist as a free species. The cost had been their reputation as peaceful explorers, but the benefit was immeasurable. Humanity would face the future on its own terms, without interference from species that saw them as children or servants. The sign on Admiral Mitchell's desk summed up the new reality perfectly. "Welcome to human space. Please keep your distance." The galaxy had entered a new era, one where humanity's borders were marked not by weapons or walls, but by fear and respect. Trade continued through automated systems. Communications were maintained through quantum relays, and the peace held because everyone understood the consequences of breaking it dot in the vast emptiness of space. Humanity had found the strongest defense of all, the certainty that they were too dangerous to fight and too valuable to destroy. The enhanced humans had given their species the ultimate gift, the right to be left alone. And in the silence of the void, that was exactly what humanity had always wanted.